Hi, everyone who's on the call. This is Margaret. We'll just give it a few more minutes for people to log on. We don't quite have everyone on board as yet, so please just bear with us. We'll just give it 1 minute. This is really strange because I can't hear or see you guys, but you can see me. Hi, it's 12:31. As soon as it goes over to 12:32, we'll give it a start. But maybe while we wait for other participants to join, I'll introduce myself. My name is Margaret Munetsi. I'm a principal at CountPlus One. I'm very fortunate to work with 4 other principals, 3 male and 1 female. We've had quite an exciting journey over the last 3 or 4 years in just growing the business and getting to know each other. Part of this process was for us to tap into a portion of our client base that we thought we could educate and maybe just work with a bit better. I'm a mother of 2. I'm a daughter of 3, a family of 3, raised by my father and mother in Zimbabwe, if you haven't read my profile. I'm a wife, I'm a sister-in-law, I'm a colleague, as I've just explained. And also I think I'm a mother-in-law to be, sort of just waiting for that to eventuate. But that's just a little bit about me. I might just give it a start and start walking through the information I wanted to take you through. So why women in focus? I really believe that as women, we have quite a large sphere of influence, and you'll hear me talk about that quite a bit. We touch so many aspects of different people's lives, and I've just described what I am to so many people, and you would be the same. What I wanted to do was make sure that the tax knowledge that I have and the financial planning experience that I've had working with my colleagues is imparted to those people that I know, and that we can make meaningful decisions that help you make planning easier, and so that you have peace of mind at the end of it. I hope that I will touch on all the different age groups that are affected, and please don't pigeonhole yourself in one particular age group, and I'll explain that as I go. So what are the desired outcomes of this? I really do want you to walk away and understand how the series is going to be structured, and we've done it purposely over a number of months so that we can build on it and give you tools that will help you, establish what it is you want to achieve, and then take you through the next few months and build on that. There's so much within this area of tax and future planning, and to bring it all together in one session is probably not going to be helpful. It's a long-term thing. Financial literacy for me means knowledge. It's what knowledge can I give you to make better decisions. So it could be building on knowledge that you already have, or knowledge that you don't have, or just filling in the gaps. I think it's also really important for us to understand milestones, and I'll explain that in some depth. I did try and sort of go through this with some of my male colleagues who glazed over, but I think the ladies will understand and be able to absorb this quite easily. I'm going to focus on needs and actions. I refer to the sphere of influence and its impact. I'll touch on that in each area. It's your warmth, what you radiate and who you captivate within that. So we'll just quickly touch on What's actually going to happen over the next 12 months? What are the areas that we're going to be looking at? Future planning. What does this mean? It encompasses a few things. It takes financial planning and then helps us relate it to tax planning. And when we do that, we look at milestones and life events. So that could be a divorce, a birth, a marriage, whatever it is. And we make sure that we're addressing it from a financial planning point of view and a tax planning point of view. We then look for tools that are within the financial planning space. And our firm is fortunate enough to have both sides of the scale and be able to bring them together. And then we understand what those key tools are. So it could range from superannuation, or cash flow management, looking at legacies and estate planning. It could be insurance, but everything is making sure that we're structuring everything for financial effectiveness. The next thing would be tax planning. Now this can be quite technical, and I think I've got some really good technical presenters on this, but they're going to break it down so it's not too hard to understand. The key things that you need to focus on when we explore this area over the year is, what is a tax plan? What are the structures? When should I bring certain structures in? People do make the mistake of using the wrong tax structures at the wrong time. And then making sure that it links back to your future plan. So that could be with our financial planning team or with your family. You just need to make sure that those are working together. We've also tried to embrace technology and real life examples so that we can give you case studies and things to tap into that actually make everything real and relevant as well, especially from the technology point of view. Now, this is probably my favorite part. If you ask any of my colleagues, it's us. Who are we? Why are we doing this? Why are we investing this time? We want to show you how we work and the success we've had with how we work. We want women to be the focus because of their sphere of influence, but that doesn't mean that men are not allowed to come along on the ride. They are an essential part of it, and I'll speak to that as I go through the different examples. It's actually quite funny because I think a lot of the examples of where I find my sphere of influence come from is men. Peace of mind. That's something that I constantly talk about with my clients. It's up to me to hear what it is you're saying, and we just make sure that we're giving you the peace of mind by giving you the tools. And my desire out of all this is to make sure that we understand you personally and we tailor something that's made for you, not something that's just cut out of the box and thrown at you. My favorite is love of community. I will definitely touch on that, and hopefully even in this forum have an impact on that. Okay, so let's get into the more, this is probably the toughest part of this whole presentation. So what I'm going to focus on here is milestones. And these milestones will try and address what the need is and what the action, and I'll give you examples in between. On the left, you'll see that I've looked at wealth and how do we grow wealth as our age increases. That's sort of the norm of how it sort of evolves. And at each of those points, there are different stages of life, from growth to establishment to pre and post retirement. So the first dot, which is what I'll jump straight into, relates to someone who's in their 20-somethings. Now, let's just focus on the dot that's actually highlighted in the boldest color. And please don't get me wrong, as I said before, if you are 60 and you feel 20 and this resonates with you, please go with this. If you're 20 and you feel 60 and you feel like you're in the retirement phase, please resonate with that and write down points on a piece of paper that come out to you as I speak. I've got a pretty good summary of it at the end, and I'll give you time to reflect on it because it really is important that you take what you get out of this and put it into action. So 20-somethings, or those that relate to it, what are your needs? And I'm reflecting as well as a mom of a 20-year-old and one coming up as well. I really think a good foundation, discipline, goals and guidance are key at this stage of life. I'll reflect on my own story. if you read my bio, you'd see that my parents, I think, were critical in just giving me a good foundation, which was education. They really empowered me and then instilled some disciplines in terms of work and what I should aim for in terms of my career, etc., and guided me along the way. A more practical example, let's say from a financial point of view, is I met a partner at one of the big four where I worked, and the story she told me is still in my head to this day. She's from a Chinese family, quite traditional, and dad was very, very focused on the fact that she must have a property by the time she was 25 years old, which she thought was so unrealistic, but she knew it was a goal that she couldn't say no to. So the discipline that he instilled in her was that save 10% of your salary, if anyone remembers that, put it in your bank account, go down to the post office, get it put into your account and have it stamped off. With that, she kept to it. She followed and was accountable to her dad for that. And just before her 25th birthday, he gave her a bit of the money and said, go and buy yourself a suit, which she couldn't quite understand. But when she came back, he gave her the passbook, for those that remember what those were, and she took it down to the bank manager on her own and applied for the loan. She said that gave her so much confidence and, you know, just the ability to understand that with those disciplines and that foundation, it sets you up for life. And she took that through to her career, and she had 2 little girls that she was going to impart that to. So you're sitting there as a 20-something-year-old, sort of asking, what if I'm sort of in the middle of the 20 and 30? Same thing applies. And a bit of what I'm about to explain for the next category might also apply. Ask yourself, what are your goals? If you don't know what they are, ask someone to help you. Our team, financial planning and accounting, work quite well to sort of get to the bottom of that. They could be financial, they could be otherwise. Just make sure you're talking to the right person. It could be your father, it could be your grandmother, your peers, people that you're setting up business with. Talk. Set those goals early. It's never too late. Understand tax. Make sure you understand the tax return that you're lodging from a personal point of view. That's from income right through to all the deductions. Don't just lodge, and try and do it before you lodge if you've got questions. Now, and then spend time understanding your debt and where you're actually paying interest and things like that. That is critical. You'll see in this slide, I've sort of emphasized a warm orange color there. That's your sphere of influence. It might be a bit more than that. That's just an example. That might be your future business partners, might be your future life partner that you'll have children with. What you want to do is make sure that if they're within that sphere, you're taking them with you along the journey. It could be your friends, siblings. Just make sure you're taking them with you. They form part of your network as life goes on. Okay, so that's the 20-somethings. And remember, I'll give you a summary of all this. I know it's a lot to take in. Now, this is probably, I could probably spend the whole afternoon on this slide because I can resonate with this, being a 40-something. And I can clearly say I know things that affect me day to day and what concerns me day to day. So what are my needs? What are the 40-something needs? Definitely financial stability. I just need to make sure that we've got enough money, one, to buy our first home or upgrade the home that we're in. We might have an apartment previously, and now kids are coming into the picture, we're growing. And remember, there is a transient stage from the 20s to the 40s, so pick where you fit in. One thing that's also key to this is once accommodation's taken care of, does that accommodation change or your accommodation needs with changes in circumstances? I might lose my partner, we might separate, you know, there's so many things, blended families, we need to take all that into account. Then the education of the kids is important. It could be daycare right through to uni. I think you're paying about the same on either end. And what's really also important is to have a view on retirement. You might not have a set plan, but have a goal towards that retirement. And one thing that resonates with me a lot is the peace of mind about my parents. It doesn't mean that I help them make financial decisions, but I understand where they are leaning towards. So examples that I've got in this category are, let's take a small business, right? For example, where you've established a small business, you're trying to grow it, you're trying to make sure that you've got your first family home, you're looking at private school funding, possibly for the children, investment properties, you're trying to all bring it together and still have some sanity, holidays perhaps. But there might be just a reliance on one salary or maybe two or three. So the important thing there is the needs are the same. As someone, like I'll give you my personal example, migrated about 20 years ago with a toddler. And it was tough, but I knew very quickly that I had to find ways to equalize wealth, either inside and outside of super, find a family home, ensure income is there, ensure I understood my health needs and the insurance needs of the family. So that takes us to our action items for this age category. You just need to remember that we appreciate the kids are the plan. So there are some tools that you can put into place, but you probably need to do them quite early on. When we work through those with the future planning team. Insurance is critical. It's ensuring that we have the right insurance at the right time in the right place, so that you're not leaving your spouse or the other person that you're making this plan with in the lurch. Your health, understanding where you stand with that. Assets, putting assets in the right vehicles at the right point in time. So with that, I'm referring to trusts and superannuation. There are different tools that you could use. Also, the tax effect of certain decisions, you need to appreciate those. The classical one is, if we look at the family home, where a lot of people in this age group tend to be quite nomadic. They get opportunities all over the world. We see it all the time. They come in and out of Australia. What's the impact on your tax residency? Or what's the impact on your main residence? All those things sort of need to be planned out and mapped out as they happen and before they happen with the different opportunities that you have. The sphere of influence in this one is interesting because it starts to practically take over half the slide and starts to sort of go into the pre and post retirement phase. So what does that mean? It could be like the circumstances I find myself in, the colleagues that I work with, the people that I'm building a business with. It could be my husband or my ex-husband or my future husband. It could be friends that I just have some form of influence on, children, my siblings. So I just need to look at that, and new family members coming in when your daughter introduces you to her partner, and also my parents. That's critical because I need to also look beyond that. And just to take a step back as well, for those that are coming from overseas, that sphere of influence might be your commitments outside of Australia and how we can balance those out. And I've seen that really work well with the future planning team to take all that into account and make it manageable and easy to set goals and ensure that you're addressing all those different areas. Again, I appreciate that's a lot to take in. And I'll give you the last slide. I won't spend too much time on this one, but you'll see by the sphere of influence, which is now the whole orange slide. I didn't even try to make it look too pretty. It's so far reaching. After the 60 pluses or 60 somethings have addressed their needs, which are financial stability, paying down the mortgage, or ensuring that you get there by the end of it all, educating the kids that are still with you, possibly in uni, planning on how to help children acquire assets, such as their own homes, defining and ensuring a secure retirement plan, peace of mind and support for your parents who are probably 20 years or so older than you. Now you're really worrying about them, grandchildren and legacy. That's one thing we see constantly that's at the forefront of this age group's mind. And then income earning is also something that's quite critical, because at this stage, not only is possibly the income starting to wind down, but you're also trying to put as much money as you can into the most tax effective vehicles. So I'll give you just a really quick example that we see quite a lot in this age group. It's executives who are now looking towards a retirement plan. We review maximum amounts that we can get in from a concessional, non-concessional. Please don't worry, we'll go into that a bit more. Which vehicles were being used either for the business, running that successful business, that need to now be wound down? How long have we had those? Can we get tax-free exemptions with those? And where does the money go once we actually realize that wealth? That's so important. And then thinking about it from a legacy point of view, we then start looking at tools for estate planning and ensuring that the estate plan is solid and the family understands what the outcome, the desired outcome is. So I guess the action that we tend to have with this age group is that we ensure we're looking at that plan regularly, because things do change year upon year. And sometimes that plan was set 20 years ago. So we just need to make sure that it's something that's engaging and takes us through to a solid retirement phase. We look at superannuation quite aggressively. We also look at those structures that I mentioned before, just making sure that they're in place. So I think my finger's jumping on ahead of me. So this is a summary that I said I'd touch on. Just walking backwards, as I said, the 60-somethings, it's that far-reaching group that probably influences all the others coming up, from grandchildren to children. It's the retirement plan, superannuation, the change in earnings that we look at, strategic assets and tax structures, legacy and grandchildren are really, really important for peace of mind, and ending any business or work-related ties. Whereas the 40-somethings, we talked about the family home and the stability that that brings, investments and tax structures at the appropriate times, insurance and health, making sure that we've tied everything in to make sure your partner or whoever you're working with has peace of mind as well. We talked about children and education, superannuation again, and your parents. For the 20-somethings, it's property, debt, superannuation, probably not to as much depth as the others, but thinking about it, investment vehicles, insurance, and of course, your sphere of influence, because you're starting to create your own network. So if you've got a piece of paper in front of you or your phone or something, I just implore you to write down maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that really resonated with you, whichever category you think you fit into. With those, I'll take you on to the next slide. I sort of picked a few pictures that I sort of felt they captured snippets of my life and hopefully bits of that you can relate to. Write down those 3 things that, I'll take you back to that slide again. And the reason you're writing these down is for reflection, to actually stop and to just think through, 1, who is in that sphere of influence that you probably need to have a chat about one of the things that I've come up with, that I brought up on the slide. Is it your mom that you're worried about her retirement plan and giving her peace of mind? Is it your daughter, ensuring that you give her that first foundation step? Or is it your spouse that you sit down and you actually come up with a plan that addresses insurance and health matters? Because let's face it, life happens and we're looking for peace of mind. So think about it from a needs perspective and action. So from a needs perspective, you're going to write down what it is that resonated with you from this slide. Then you're going to focus on who's going to come into that sphere of influence. So I'm assuming you've written those 3 things down. I'll give you a few seconds just to think about that. So after that reflection and just looking at those 3 key things and the people that you've identified, and it could be, I need to have a chat with Margaret so I can better understand how I can put this into place. Or it could be, you know, Gran did mention this, I'll have a chat with her and see what she thinks about what I should do as my next step. I need a bit of guidance. Or it could be, You know, I really wanted to structure the kids so that I can help them out with buying their first home. I think I need to speak to someone to help me. What's critical for the next 10 minutes or so as we finish up, remember, I'm just trying to keep this short and sharp, is write your questions down for me. If I don't get to them all, you'll get an answer in the next few days. So they really are critical to me. If you need to clarify anything, our email address is womeninfocus@cp1.com.au. Shoot me an email, I'll address that. Talk, go out there and talk to your sphere of influence and invite them to the next session. So I'll answer a few questions. I think we've got about 5 or so minutes left. I'm sorry I went a little bit over. I do get passionate about the 40-something age group, as I said before, so bear with me. Let me see if I can, sorry, before I introduce Adam, I'm just trying to bring up the questions that we might have out there. Okay, yes, if you do want to set goals, yes, someone will be in touch with you. I won't say who asked the question. They've just asked, can someone contact me setting financial goals and what I should be aiming for? Definitely. And it's definitely a personal thing, and it will change from person to person, age, your risk profile, etc. The thing is, we pride ourselves in the ability for 2 of us to come into the room from a tax and future planning point of view to help you with that. Okay, the next question says, you spoke a lot about life stages and setting goals. I'm in my early 30s, I'm single, and I don't think I have a strong foundation. I am in a well-paying job and have a lot of potential to grow. How do you suggest I start to get my financial goals on track? Yeah, really good question. It's actually it's got so many aspects to it. Bearing in mind, I'm not a financial planner, so there is limited stuff that I can cover. But as you saw from the sneak peek of this, the next slide is Adam will be taking on the next series for future planning. And we work together, as I say, quite strongly to make sure we're taking care of you from a tax and financial planning point of view. It's not uncommon for us to actually start talking to people in their 30s. I think it depends, and a lot of them, sorry, have opportunities in front of them, and it's normally a life stage or something that makes them click that they need the help. What's critical is to, number one, understand, as I said, that tax return. Once we've done that, we can then go through the different things that you're trying to achieve and then work backwards. We'll find the tools that then will assist you in making sure that you set goals that are realistic and we make you accountable for them. We meet with you regularly and talk through them. Compliance, you have to meet with us once a year, but then it goes beyond that. It's actually about making a plan and making sure that the income that you're earning, the hard work that you're putting in is actually helping you, one, come up with a financial plan, but then kick those goals as you go along. Another question that's just come through is that my partner and I are in our late 50s, and we have 2 children who are in their early 30s. All the children are married and somewhat comfortable financial position. We do not have a financial goal. We're both still working, but don't really foresee any large financial commitments in our lives. Are our goals financial goals still important to focus on? I think with this one, I think it's twofold. If I could just refer back to the slides. You've got a sphere of influence, which means you can help your children, your grandchildren set themselves up properly. You can put in certain structures that will help make it tax effective. You can also put in tax structures that will help with succession, that is passing on wealth, which is, I think, one of the biggest challenges most families in your position face. It's how do you pass on that wealth in an equitable way. Estate planning is possibly the most essential thing there, as well as you slow down, you're still earning income. How do we get money into a superannuation environment and make it work for you? the hardest it possibly can. I can't go into too much depth without trying to get more information. As I said, our future planning team is excellent at this. They really tap into this really well. I'm cognizant of time, and I know it's 1 o'clock. I hope I've addressed a few of the questions that have come up. Please feel free to email us on womeninfocus@cp1.com.au. And in the next series, we'll be touching on financial planning and delving into the technicalities of that with Adam. I'll send around a profile of him so you understand who he is. Again, thank you for sparing 30 minutes. I hope I've addressed or given you a brief overview of what's to come over the next few months, and you'll join me in the journey. Thank you. Goodbye.